Thank you, Hannah, for having me.
Now, you have been, and I say veteran, how many years have you been in Hollywood and in the film
Uh,
industry?
well, my first TV job was 1986.
Wow. Wow. So it's been a few years.
It's been a few years.
I was I was scrolling down your thing. I was listening to your stand up, laughing hysterically with my 15-year-old. But stand up comedian, you most recently was Chuck Big Mike. You're on the series Chuck. You played Big Mike, The Pursuit
hmm
of Happiness, Caddyshack 2, just to name a few things. How, I was reading your bio on certain things. How do you feel that God has used your life? How have you gotten from point A to point B, basically? What's your story?
Well, by the grace of God,
Amen.
I mean, clearly, God has been in control of my career. I mean, there's been points where I felt like, wow, why am I doing this? It's been 2 months. I haven't had a job. I'm
Yeah.
going to go do something else. And God has stepped in and not only provided another way, but He slams the door of something else that I'm trying to do. Like
I
I,
understand.
I am not. For example, I think I was fresh out of college, and I had like a 3 month lull. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I should do something else. So I'm looking through the paper and I see uh, car dealer training. So I was come and audit the first class for free, and we can place you in Vegas, la 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 la. So I go, I sit and audit this class, and while I am there, the FBI comes in and shuts the school down.
That's funny.
A couple of days later, I get a call. I get a job, no audition,
Wow. That's
an
unheard
acting
of.
job.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, so that's what God does. I mean, He's like, okay, you're not going to Vegas to deal no cards. This is your calling.
Absolutely. So when was that aha moment where you were like, this is what God has put me on this earth to do?
Um, I mean, just if you look at the way I got into there's no doubt that it is. I was on the speech and debate team in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wanted to go to a different high school, and because I wanted to play football,
Mm-hmm.
and my mother didn't want to jump through the hoops to get me into this other high school, so I ended up at Dominguez High in Compton, where I live,
Mm-hmm.
and so happens Mrs. Schilling, my English teacher, got me involved in speech and debate.
That's neat.
And from there, I ended up at USC on a debate scholarship.
Wow.
And my first agent was a friend of one of the debate coaches.
Wow.
I had no money, so she paid for my first pictures.
Wow.
First first audition she sent me on, I got the job. It was on the machine before I got back home.
Wow. Wow.
And so at that point, I was like, okay, because I was going to go to law school. When I went to SC, I was clearly
Wow.
thinking law school.
Funny.
I had a voice class. I took a voice class. I said, okay, I want to get centered and get my speaking voice together. And I take this
Mm-hmm.
class, and the guy says, okay, you can't pass the class unless you do 2 songs and 2 monologues. I did that, and he says, hey, have you thought about the Bachelor of Fine Arts acting program here at USC? I said, I didn't even know there was a Bachelor of Fine Arts acting program here at USC. And he said, well, we have an opening in one of the classes, so I want to coach you to audition for this thing. So I did, and I got in. I was already a junior,
Wow.
and then started working professionally that same year.
Wow. That's
So I mean,
that's
that's God.
absolutely, absolutely. And that's just it, is when I believe that when you are pursuing what the good Lord puts you on this earth, He will open doors. It's
Yes.
not always easy. It's not always when you think it should be. And, we've all had those moments when we just felt like we have hit our head against a brick wall, but
hmm
doors do open. And that is just the most beautiful thing, how just God just orchestrates that. And that's why I'm always trying to tell people, too, that use your gifts. God's given you gifts.
Right.
And when you do that, you are being a witness because you're being
Well,
what you've been called to be.
just last night I was at an iRally event here in Los Angeles, and Rick Rayner, one of his messages was, God not only gives you a gift, the one thing that you're focusing on, you have many gifts.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of things that you can do. Like for example, I'm a stand up, I'm a writer,
Mm-hmm.
an actor. I
Mm-hmm.
do voiceovers. The more you can do, you should hone all those gifts because God gave them to you for a reason.
Absolutely. So what is some advice that you would give to people? That's a really great segue to my next question. Is what would some advice that you would give to somebody, the Hollywood veteran that you are, that is just
Mm-hmm.
in pursuing what they feel called to pursue?
Be prepared. Because the competition is so stiff. It's like when I go into an audition, everybody in the room is excellent, and you've seen them all the time. It's like the last audition I went on. I mean, there were actors in there that are A-list actors, and I'm like, oh wow, there's so and so, and there's so and so. It's like if they want him, they don't want me because we're so different.
Yeah.
But you walk into the room, you just have to be prepared because the competition is stiff. So I tell young actors all the time, if you walk into a room and you see me sitting there and we're reading for the same part, you're not going to get a job if you're not prepared because I am ready.
Yeah. And I think too that you have to know who you are, because it would be really easy to be like, get all up in your head.
Oh,
well, that's so and so, or well, that's so and so. Well, no, wait a
right.
minute. If God has me in this place, has me in this role, they need to be watching me.
Exactly. It's funny. It's funny you say that because early in my career, God took that away from me.
Good.
Because what happened was I walk in and I see Antonio Fargas, who used to play Huggy Bear on Beretta, and we're reading for the same role. And I was like, wow, that's Huggy Bear. and I ended up getting the job.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that really was a turning point for me and my mindset of it doesn't matter who else is in the room.
Right.
If I'm prepared, I can get the job.
Right. So you travel all around the world. I was going to tell you, I was watching your stand up on your website, which, as I said, my 15-year-old and I were roaring hysterically. But the reason why Midwest girls stay fluffy is because it's so cold. I just want to tell you that. We have to keep about 20 pounds on us, me more like 50 sometimes, but we have to keep that. It's insulation. But you travel around all over the place. And do you ever just be like, do you still love it? Are you still passionate? Do you still have those days where it's like, dude, I'm in another city and I don't know who these people are?
I don't mind. I like traveling. I like staying in hotels. I think the only thing I don't like about it is going to the airport dealing with the TSA. That's and I realize that in today's society it's a necessary evil, but some of them it's like you are taking yourself way too seriously.
Yes.
It's like that's my only issue with the travel.
Yes, I understand. And it's semi-illegal to crack jokes. Did you know that?
Oh yes.
Because I'm kind of similar. I always want to make a joke with them. And many years ago, my husband and I, we'd fly all over the place, and someone got one of my daughters this giant stuffed horse. And so we were shoved it into, I'm sorry I'm telling the story, but it's funny. We had shoved it into this container, and somehow it was just like stuffed in there. And so they're taking this out to make sure we hadn't hid bombs in it. And this TSA agent is like, it's like the Mary Poppins suitcase where she's this whole big horse. And I'm turning around, cracking up hysterically because it's just funny to watch this TSA agent do this and trying to I hit a bomb in the stuffed horse. But anyway, sorry. But yeah, I understand. They need a sense of humor. They really do.
I mean, sometimes they have it, but most of the time not. And then there's those airports you go to, and there's like, there's one particular airport. I get there, and it's such a tiny little airport, but they had like a Cinnabon store. I was like, oh, look at this cute little Cinnabon store. In this tiny little airport. And I pretty much had to pat myself down. That's how small this airport was.
Make sure that you were okay.
Yes.
That's funny. My husband's family's from Canada, and so we travel back and forth on the border all the time. And I've got some funny border crossing stories. I won't go there, but I've got some really funny ones, so I get it. And they're not allowed to joke either, at all.
No.
Anyway, so what are you doing next? What do you have up next? I know that you're traveling as a comedian. What do you got on your agenda?
What do I have? I'm not quite sure. It's so hard for me to stay ahead of the calendar. I literally have to look at my calendar every day to see what's going on. Because if I'm trying to keep it in my head, I skip something. I'll miss something.
Right.
pilot season is coming up, so
Yeah.
I'll stick closer to home and try to get on a show.
Yeah.
That's the goal in 2017. I am working with Chucky Perez from Chucky has a show on the Chucky Perez show on
Mm-hmm.
Juice TV at TVN, and
Mm-hmm.
so he and I produced a pilot presentation
Neat.
of a talk show for me called Pure Laughs. So hopefully TVN will pick that up. It's basically me interviewing a clean comic, and
Cool.
we did the pilot presentation at a pizza joint. So me and Kevin Johnson, who's a fantastic ventriloquist. I think he's probably one of the best in the nation.
Neat.
He and I are at this pizza joint having lunch and talking about his career, and then we actually go into the kitchen and make a pizza, and then we do his stand up, there
That's fun.
at the restaurant,
That's fun.
with his dolls and stuff. But I think in the actual show, we'll go back to the studio and do the stand up portion in front of studio audience.
That's fun. That's fun. And
Yeah.
people, I think that'll go well because people want relatable anymore. I mean, I love TBN. I've been on TBN several times, and I think that
Hmm.
the we're hungry for relatable people. We don't just want the perfect image. We want
Yeah.
hey, we have flaws. This is not 1950s anymore, and hey, Jesus is
Exactly.
awesome. So that's awesome.
Well, I tell people all the time, I'm a Christian, but I'm not by any stretch of the imagination, a perfect Christian.
Yeah,
I'm
agreed.
not Christ. I'm trying to be Christ-like
Yeah,
in my walk, but I also have my failures, and I know what I struggle with on a daily basis, and
right.
so keep me in prayer is what I'm saying,
Absolutely.
because I'm flawed severely.
I hear you, brother. Me too. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I believe it'll resonate with people because we all need to be a representative of Christ, even if we aren't perfect, no matter what we're doing. Whether we
Yes,
are a Hollywood veteran or whether we are on Wall Street. I believe that God has a plan for all of our lives to infiltrate the industry and infiltrate the world because we're just to be lights.
yes.
So thank you so much for being on the show. I want you all to remember that God has awesome plans for your life, so you better start getting excited. Thanks for watching.